We have what some will consider a bombshell of a report that the Rams are meeting with this quarterback in the draft. We're going to talk about if the Rams may be actually looking to draft this particular player, what Sean McVay had to say about drafting quarterbacks earlier this offseason and why it kind of doesn't match up with what's going on here, and also the Puka Nacua retirement conversation, all on today's episode of the Rams Digest. I'm your host, Joshua Giron. Remember, if you guys are not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor, press that subscribe button now. Roughly 74.3% of you guys are watching the videos, but you're still not subscribed to the channel, so do me the favor, press that subscribe button so you don't miss any daily Rams content here at the Rams Digest. First things first, I want to get on into this first story here when we're talking about another quarterback meeting for the draft this offseason. What are we talking about here? Well, earlier in the season, I did want to say this, earlier in the offseason, I should say, before we get into who they're meeting with, kind of really intriguing, right? Because we could pull this up now. Sean McVay earlier this year, this is what he had to say about drafting a quarterback this year. He said, I think that's unlikely. Just straight out said that, right? I'll be honest with you, I haven't done a whole lot of work on the quarterbacks. I feel really good about where our quarterback room is, and I haven't done enough work to really have an educated opinion on that. And so that's very intriguing, kind of concerning, right, from your head coach when we're talking about the Rams very clearly needing a quarterback in the near future. Him saying he's not doing much work. He's comfortable with what's in the room right now. And we're talking about Stafford and Jimmy G, right, which is fine. Those two quarterbacks are obviously more than enough right now for your team. Stetson Bennett, obviously that future former fifth-round pick, so maybe he can be your third quarterback. But you're not really crossing your fingers hoping that Stetson Bennett will be the future of the Rams quarterback room. Of course, I mean, that'd be nice, but overall, that's not the reality the Rams should be living in or probably are living in, right? So very intriguing that this was the quote from Sean McVay earlier this year. Not really kind of grilling him for this, but it was a little shocking to hear him. Is it a tactic? Who knows? When it comes down to maybe hoping guys fall, hoping that no team thinks that you're going for a quarterback now and you're able to get a quarterback to fall in your lap because other teams aren't trading up for a guy they're interested in because they don't think you're interested. Long-winded way of saying the Rams could be playing some tactics, right? But overall, I don't think that's necessarily the case. It's very intriguing stuff. Not really sure if what Sean McVay was saying here. We obviously questioned it at the time as well, saying, you probably should be looking at the quarterbacks this year unless you absolutely just don't like them. That's another story. But it seems like the Rams are not in that position. They aren't just kind of waving off quarterbacks. They're not interested in quarterbacks. As you can see here, breaking, Rams set to meet with star quarterback prospect. We're talking about Jalen Milroe, the quarterback out of Alabama. And so very intriguing stuff. You see him throwing here in this pro day. Why are the Rams meeting with Jackson Dart, supposedly spending extensive time with Jackson Dart, who could possibly be drafted in the first round this year, and now looking at around that range of the 90th pick in the draft, the third round pick the Rams have this year, maybe the 101 pick in the draft. Jalen Milroe could fall in that range, and now they're meeting with another quarterback in that realm of possibility for them when it comes to drafting a player in that range. And so very intriguing. To me, obviously what Sean McVay had to say earlier this year about quarterbacks was not really true. I think the Rams are very interested in testing out to see what these quarterbacks have, what's their potential to be potentially future starters in the NFL. And I think that's what the Rams are trying to find out right now, which is why they're meeting with so many guys and very intrigued at the quarterback position. So kind of something to very obviously keep an eye on. We talked about maybe Jackson Dart feeling like he's inevitable to be a Ram. I said maybe a guy like Quinn Ewers, and it looks like another source here, Jordan Schultz, saying Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe has upcoming visits with the Giants, Rams, and Seahawks after meeting with the Browns earlier this year. Milroe's name has been gaining steam in recent weeks. He's meeting with teams, right? He's meeting with teams. He's meeting with the Rams. The Rams are meeting with quarterbacks, multiple quarterbacks. And so that's kind of just interesting, right? We're talking about, again, Sean McVay's quotes earlier this year. Intriguing to see now that that's kind of changed, which is good. And I think the Rams are doing their due diligence. They really should do their due diligence, right? You want to maybe find a quarterback now, even if you're just going to develop him for a couple years, just in case you don't find one next year, right? You're probably not going to get the first overall pick and draft the future Arch Manning out of Texas. I mean, it'd be nice, but I don't think that's what's going to happen if the Rams are trying to win a Super Bowl this year at the same time. And so you want to plan for now, you want to plan for the future. The Rams going after a guy like Jalen Milroe would be very intriguing, a guy who can move with his feet, something that Sean McVay has not had in a quarterback in a while. And so I don't think ever in the NFL, right, in his NFL coaching career. And so that's very intriguing to see if he can what he can do, the creativity he can bring on offense with a quarterback who can move as well as Jalen Milroe does. That'd be very, Very intriguing stuff. We'll move off of that, but very interesting to kind of check that out. Now we're talking about Puka overseas and just in general, Puka retiring from the NFL. Puka, what are we discussing here? Well, Puka Nacua was on a podcast, actually a very good podcast you guys are probably familiar with. It was Names. I forget what his podcast called, actually. Let me double check. But Julian Edelman's podcast. That podcast is Names with Games with Names. I'm forgetting right now off the top of my head. Games with Names, I think it is. And I want to make sure. Games with Names. Yes, I got it 100% correct. Okay, so I want to make sure I was accurate there. But Julian Edelman's podcast brings on Puka Nacua, and here is what Puka Nacua is discussing. He's saying Los Angeles Rams receiver Puka Nacua highlights retirement plans. He is talking about going overseas to play basketball. Now, if you guys didn't watch the podcast, which I don't really think you need to, but I mean, it's a fun podcast if you want to enjoy it. Shout out to Julian Edelman. But overall, if you want to go back and listen to it, about the 12-minute mark is when he's talking about this situation. And he's kind of joking, kind of serious in the way Puka Nacua kind of always is. He's essentially saying he wants to go play overseas, some country nobody really knows the name of, 25% of the world knows of. He goes out, buys a team maybe. He becomes the owner, becomes the coach, he becomes a player, and he will be the first ever, I'm sure, player, coach, player, owner, controlling his own minutes, controlling that, and obviously jersey sales being kind of big for him would be the goal, and make it into a real business venture while he goes off to play professional basketball. What was very intriguing too was that I was thinking about this when I first heard the report. Before I even heard the podcast, I was kind of like, well, if he wants to play basketball, he has to be kind of young when he retires. Well, he actually was saying on the podcast he wants to be retired at the age of 30 from the NFL, which is what a lot of players have done in the past, obviously to protect their own well-being. Football is such a physically taxing sport. I think for a player to be playing from high school all the way to their 30 years old is already quite a bit of time to be getting hit in the head and playing a physical sport like football. And so a lot of players may be kind of going this route, right? Retiring a little bit earlier than expected. But overall, Puka says that's kind of his plans, to kind of retire around that age of 30. Not ideal for Rams fans. You want him to be here for another 10 years. But overall, very, I respect that if that's kind of the route that Puka Nacua goes. But, in terms of him playing overseas, I was kind of hoping I could pull his quote up. Very, very interesting stuff to hear from him saying this. So he says, I want to go play overseas basketball. Like, I'm sure I could go to another country that only 25% of the world ever heard of before, get ownership in the team, and I'm going to get 25 shots up a night. I'm going to be the coach. I'm going to sub my own minutes in, and then I'm going to make sure that we're getting ticket sales at the end of it, like trying to work some actual business. So shout out to Puka Nacua doing his thing. He wants to go be a professional basketball player overseas at the age of 30. Very intriguing to hear him talk about it. He is a pretty good player. We saw him in the All-Star game. He does have some skill. He played pretty well in high school as well. Was a good high school basketball player. And so shout out to Puka. If this is what he wants to do, that'd be pretty cool to go see him do that. Hopefully it's not for a long time. If it is at the age of 30, it is what it is. But hopefully it's not for a much longer time down the road for Puka Nacua. Obviously the Rams want to see him playing football longer than that. But overall, wish him nothing but the best. Shout out to Puka, always giving us something entertaining to discuss. But last but not least, my favorite part of the episode, trivia of the day. I give you guys a trivia question. You play along at home. You give your guess down below, whether you're right or wrong. I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Here was the last episode's trivia of the day question. Right here. What quarterback withstood the league record 76 sacks in his expansion team's first season? Very interesting stuff. I think I knew this one off the top of my head, so I hope you guys were able to play along. We actually had quite a few people play along, so I want to give a shout out to about the 8 or so people who did. Shout out to the real J Will. He says David Carr ended up ruining him. Sal says answer to the trivia B, Kerry Collins. Kurt Reed says David Carr. Floyd says Carr. We also had some more guesses, so we'll stay here. Here were the continued guesses. We had Robert Ford saying David Carr with the Texans. Thomas saying David Carr. King Sharif saying David Carr. And Brian B guessing Mark Bunell. So overall, quite a bit of guesses here. We appreciate you guys playing along. Shout out to all of you guys here who played along at home. The correct answer for last episode trivia of the day, which quarterback was sacked a league record 76 times for his expansion team's first season? It was David Carr of the Houston Texans. And yes, I forget who said it. Let's see, it was the real Jay Will. It says ended up ruining him. Yeah, Derek Carr, we see him, right, ball out. the success he's had so far in his career. Pretty good quarterback career in general. I mean, compared to my quarterback career, right? I wouldn't play at all. He's a pretty good quarterback, I think, Derek Carr, whatever your opinion is about that. But David Carr, his older brother, played in the NFL first, was a pretty good quarterback in his own right, had some talent and showed some talent, but man, the Houston Texans were not very good around that time. Kind of did ruin his chances at ever really succeeding in the NFL. Sometimes it is your circumstance at the end of the day that really kind of tells where your career is going to go. So shout out to David Carr for, doing his thing and now being a good commentator. But shout out to all of you guys for guessing at home. I appreciate you guys playing along. For those who want to play along with today's trivia of the day, here is the trivia of the day for today. What season brought the first AFC and NFC wild card playoff games? That was kind of an interesting one. I haven't really seen this question posed anywhere. I haven't really thought about this question, so I think this was a fun trivia question to pull. What season brought the first AFC and NFC wild card playoff games, right? Because that's kind of one of those things too. I know wild card happens in other sports, but for me, in my own sports fandom, I was always an American sports fan. So the NBA didn't really have like a wild card necessarily. Right, and it really did. MLB did a little bit, but the way they do it now is kind of interesting as well. One game, kind of one and done. So overall, in general, is it a series now? I forget which way they went. But either way, it was an interesting idea when I was growing up a basketball fan mostly. So when I found out about wild card games, I was so confused that initially I was also 10 years old. Okay, but I was a little bit confused about the idea. So I'm interested to kind of see, when did they have the first AFC and NFC wild card games? Well, the multiple choice options for this question are A, 1970, was it B, 1978, was it C, 1986, or was it D, 1994? Well, give me your guesses down below. What season brought the first AFC and NFC wildcard playoff games? Was it A, 1970, was it B, 1978, was it C, 1986, or was it D, 1994? Give your guesses down below. I'll give you a shout out on the next episode, whether you're right, whether you're wrong. We'll shout you out either way. Other than that, that's going to do it for me on today's episode of the Rams Digest. Do me a favor, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. That's going to do it for me. I'm your host, Joshua Giron, and I'm out.